Hey everyone, today we are talking about the manufacturing flow. So this is going to be about how our products as well as our costs move through the manufacturing cycle. Okay, so let's assume that this is our factory, okay? This is where the magic happens, this is where we are making our products. Everything within here is a product cost. All right, so we have our main factory where we are making something. We're building something, we're assembling something, we're creating something. But before we can start making our product, we need to purchase the raw materials, right? So right here, we're going to have where we receive our raw materials, okay? So they come in here from the outside world, okay? So if we're making cupcakes, we have to buy butter, flour. If we're making shoes, we have to buy rubber and canvas. In some of the other videos, I'm going to be making my face masks, right? So I have to buy fabric, I have to buy thread, I have to buy elastic. So those are our raw materials. Unless we are a 100% self-sustaining, sustainable operation, we have to buy something. So that's the first step, okay? We agree on our raw materials. And we're gonna store them somewhere, right? Because we don't want them scattered from hell to breakfast all over the factory. That would be irresponsible and make it hard to track costs. So we're gonna have a little storeroom, little pantry area where we keep our raw materials. Then, as we need them, we're going to pull them into the factory, okay? And once we have our raw materials, then we're going to make our product. And in order to make our product, we're going to have to add, so this is going to be our direct materials. So our raw materials can include direct and indirect materials, but for our purposes, we're just going to assume they're all direct materials because it's just going to make this a little simpler. We'll get more complicated as the semester goes on. All right. So in order to make our product, we have to take those direct materials and we're going to have to add direct labor, which I'm going to call DL, that's my direct labor, and we're going to add our factory overhead. Okay, so our direct labor is people who are directly touching the product and turning those direct materials into our product. The factory overhead, that's going to be an allocation of things like our rent, our depreciation, our maintenance, our supervisor costs, okay? These together are called our conversion costs. So we take our direct labor, we add our conversion costs, which is our direct labor and factory overhead, and that creates our product, okay? So our product, once it's finished, moves to finished goods, okay? So we're gonna have over here, we're gonna have either some sort of a storage facility. If we're a really efficient operation, they may go directly to our shipping dock where trucks or some sort of something will take them off to where they're going to be sold. Most places have some sort of a storage facility though, because you're always gonna have a little bit of backlog as finished goods. But as soon as our product, so we take our raw materials, they come in here, direct materials, we add the direct labor, we add the factory overhead. As soon as we've added all of that, our product is complete and it goes into our storeroom for finished goods, okay? The finished goods, once they are sold, become cost of goods sold because they are sold now. Okay, so let's talk about our costs. So US GAAP, and I know we said managerial accounting doesn't follow US GAAP always, but in this case we are, because we want to be able to use the numbers we get out of here on our financial statements so we don't have to run two sets of books. Okay, so US GAAP says that when we are manufacturing goods, we capitalize all of our costs to the balance sheet in the inventory account until they are sold. And then once they're sold, they go on the income statement as cost of goods sold. All right, so our inventory on our balance sheet is going to be made up from 3 different numbers. From the raw materials, we're going to have all of our raw materials sitting here. Whatever doesn't get pulled into the production cycle in the current period is going to be our raw materials ending inventory, and that's going to go on our balance sheet. Okay, so let me write this over here. Balance sheet. All right, we're going to have our raw materials inventory. Then over here, where we're actually making stuff, this is called WIP, work in process. And our work in process, so anything we finish is going into finished goods, but anything we don't finish, so it's partially complete, right? Maybe it's a cupcake without the frosting. Maybe it's a face mask that doesn't have the pleats yet. Anything that's still unfinished as of the end of the period is going to be our WIP inventory. So it's going to be our WIP ending inventory. And then over here, we're going to have our finished goods, right? So if we sell everything, then we don't have an ending inventory. But most likely, we're not going to sell everything that we finished, right? We're going to have a little bit of a backlog. So anything left over in finished goods that's not sold at the end of the period is going to go onto our balance sheet as well. So at the end of the period, all of our ending inventory, our raw materials ending inventory, plus our WIP ending inventory, plus our finished goods ending inventory is going to be the total inventory. We'll add those together, and that's the total inventory that we're going to put on our balance sheet. Okay? So all of these costs we incurred when we pay our employees, when we buy raw materials, depreciation, all of that, instead of going directly to the income statement, we're going to stick it on the balance sheet until we actually sell our product. Once we sell our product, then it becomes cost of goods sold. And if you remember on our income statement, our sales minus our cost of goods sold equals our gross profit. Okay, so balance sheet, balance sheet, balance sheet. Once we sell it, hits the income statement as cost of goods sold. All right, so that's your overview. Now we're going to talk about each of these areas separately. Raw materials, WIP, and finished goods, and the cost of goods sold. We're going to break those down in some future videos. And then, yeah, that'll be it. And then we're going to go through an example together. All right, so stay tuned for the next one. And we're going to go over to my face mask factory. All right, see you there.